Alright, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. You're watching the daily series of Nwadei MMA, where I give you my thoughts, but more importantly, ask for you guys' thoughts, because you guys are the MMA community. Right now, this weekend we did not have any UFC events, but we did have a lot of fights to cover. Right, so we're gonna go ahead and recap the entire MMA weekend, including boxing, which included Diaz versus Masvidal in boxing. Darren Till also had a boxing match. I don't know if any of you guys knew that, because I didn't. We had some actual boxing matches as well between Shakur Stevenson and I don't know his last name. And then last but definitely not least, probably the most exciting fights of the weekend, we had the one championship card, One Fight Night 23. I know you guys have been asking for more one championship content, so I'm trying to give you guys that. So I'm going to be recapping the entire card of that. We're going to be talking about some key boxing fights that may have been interesting, may have not. We're going to talk about all of that and more today. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up to support the content, and leave your thoughts down below as well as for what you thought about all the fights this weekend. And also, don't forget to subscribe to see more videos like this one in the future. Also guys, going back to UFC 303, if you guys missed it, I did drop an Alex Pereira breaking down all of his kicks, his calf kick, his switch kick that he used to knock out Yuri Brashka, and I went into pretty good detail about those kicks in my last video. So if you have not seen that yet, go ahead and check that out. I think you guys will like it, especially if you're into all the intricacies of MMA. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting off first with the Darren Till fight. So Darren Till had a boxing match against another MMA fighter in Muhammad Muti, and this one ended in the second round. The first round was actually pretty good. Darren Till seemed like he was kind of having his way with Muti. Muti didn't really know what to do with the southpaw stance of Darren Till, and this was Darren Till's boxing debut. I believe this is the reason why he left the UFC, in order to get these opportunities like this boxing event, even though it wasn't like it was a sold out crowd. I don't know how much he got paid for it necessarily, but hey, he's trying his hand in different martial arts, and he was winning this fight. And it ends up going into the second round, and they enter this weird clinch situation where Darren Till is looking for his clinch. The ref tries to break it up. He ends up hitting the guy in the back of the head, but it wasn't really like a hard hit. Like, I'll show you guys the replay here, but let me know what you think about this hit and what you thought about the fight being stopped for this. So the guy ends up falling over, complaining, and really putting on a show for a disqualification almost. It seems like it really didn't look like any hard hit to the head, but at the same time, the brainstem and the back of the head is a very sensitive part, so people can feel more of effects than it looks like to the naked eye, especially because people have been killed in the ring receiving shots to the back of the head. However, weirdly enough, afterwards, they're all just standing around waiting for the guy to recover. The ref ends up stopping the fight, and the guy comes over to Darren Till's corner, is talking shit, and there ends up being a huge brawl. I mean, Darren Till stuck this dude with the fastest 3-2 I've ever seen since his days fighting fucking Wonderboy Thompson and Donald Cerrone. I mean, it was the fastest 3-2 I'd have never seen. Bare knuckle, or really, he had the hand wraps on, but that's about it. He took his gloves off already. The dude like charged him, was talking shit, and he stuck him with a clean cross. The guy tried to like shoot a takedown, and they were fighting. They were really fighting. Usually the brawls get broken up pretty quickly, but they were actually fighting. And it seems like if he could have fought and done all that shit after the fight, it seems like he could have continued the boxing match, but it almost looked like he was asking for a way out, asking for like a DQ. So let me know your thoughts on that. I thought it was very weird, and they did actually end up giving Darren Till the TKO win, so funny enough, that's how it works out. I know Darren Till was talking about fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. on that Mike Tyson Jake Paul card. I don't know if that's still going down. I think Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is fighting somebody else. But do y'all want to see Darren Till keep boxing? Did y'all get y'all's feel? Do you want him to come back to the UFC? Let me know what you guys think about that. But moving on, we also in boxing had Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal, and talking about strictly the main event, because all the other fights were a little bit weird. We did have Chris Avila fight Anthony Pettis, which that was actually a good match. Anthony Pettis lost again. Chris Avila actually looked good, and it's weird how everyone who trains with Nate Diaz adopts that exact same Diaz brother style. I mean, it is absolutely weird to see. But he looked just like Nate Diaz fighting against Anthony Pettis and ended up winning, so shout out Chris Avila. But moving into that main event, man, it was really a weird one, and the scorecards kind of reflected how weird it really was. So the first round or so, maybe you give the first round to Diaz, right? The next 3 rounds go to Masvidal. I think it was pretty clear in that direction, and from then on it was extremely hard to score. And if you were a judge who viewed activity over, I guess, clean one-shot combinations, then you're gonna give the fight to Diaz. And if you're a judge who values damage and clean, crisp boxing shots over volume, then you're gonna give it to Masvidal. However, no judge gave it to Masvidal. Instead, one judge gave it a draw, which, you know, I could see it was very reasonable because I thought it was a close fight. But the other 2 judges, they had it very, very lopsided for Nate Diaz. Now, I don't think that this is because it took place in California, although a lot of people are saying robbery. Again, I think it was a close fight, which you can't call a robbery for, but at the same time, 8 rounds to 2 is pretty nuts, as Jorge Masvidal said in the post-fight press conference. I mean, 2 judges had it 8 rounds to 2, or maybe even 7 rounds to 3 for Nate Diaz. And even if you were looking at the volume, I mean, sometimes Jorge Masvidal matched him on the volume and still connected clean strikes. I did not see it like that at all. If anything, I had it like, since it was 10 rounds, I had it like 6-4 or even 5-5. I mean, it was a very close fight. But Nate Diaz did his signature fucking pitter-patter volume, added up on strikes, stopping you from really breathing, trying to suffocate you with his volume type strikes that he did in MMA. However, they're a lot less effective in boxing than in MMA. Jorge Masvidal kind of waited for his moments. He came out in southpaw, which was very, very unexpected, because him being a natural orthodox fighter, and at first it looked like it was a little off, his southpaw stances or his southpaw strikes, but then it seemed like he started to pick it up, throwing that lead hook very right hand dominant as a southpaw. Landed a few big overhand lefts. I thought if he threw that overhand left a little bit more, he probably would have had the judges thinking the other way around. But the fight went the way it went. It was very interesting to see them box, but I don't want to see that again, man. I don't want to see Diaz in boxing. I don't want to see Jorge in boxing. To be honest, these dudes are 39 years old. They're not really acquiring any new skills, to be honest. If we see that again, I want to see it in MMA. If we see them fight anybody else, I want to see it in MMA, unless Jorge's doing bare knuckle or something. That'll be interesting to me, but even that I would want to see in MMA. Like, going from the Shakur Stevenson card, which we're going to talk about, to that card, yeah, you see the difference in valid quality boxing strikes, boxing footwork, boxing ranges. Now, don't get me wrong, it is interesting to see them implement kind of like that dirty boxing and the different ranges that they're striking at or boxing at, because it's not just boxing range that they're keeping it in. But man, it's just not like, if I want to watch boxing, I want to see the best in the world box, right? If I want to watch fighting, I want to see the best in the world fight, and those 2 are some of the best in the world in fighting. I thought that this one should have been in MMA, but let me know your thoughts on all of that. Who do y'all think won out of Diaz and Masvidal? Like I said, I did have Diaz winning slightly, but I can also see where they would have given it to Masvidal, which is why I was okay with it being a draw as well. I didn't see 8 rounds to 2. Sounds kind of ridiculous, but Diaz ended up afterwards calling out Jake Paul and Leon Edwards, and anyone can fucking get it, pretty much. Shout out Darren Till for his call out back in the day. But like I said, I don't want to see it in boxing, man. If he fights Jake Paul said he was willing to do MMA. I know they have something lined up with the PFL that they could be doing. We could see that MMA fight. We could see that, and I would be happy to see that. Just let's not have it again in boxing. Yeah, he was injured going into that last one, but fuck boxing, man. Fuck that shit. However, the Leon Edwards thing, I don't know if that's gonna happen ever. Leon was kind of toying with Nate Diaz up until that last moment, and Leon's only gotten better, so I don't know. Yeah, Nate Diaz is 39 years of age. I don't know if he is gonna be fighting for another UFC title or whatnot. Who knows? But say he fights Jake Paul next and beats him in MMA, I would want to see a Conor rematch before I want to see anything with Leon Edwards, and man, and I think they need to do that actually pretty quick, because I didn't even know Nate Diaz was 39, bro. I was still stuck in the days where this man was 36 and still had some future ahead of him. 39 is kind of crazy to be in the midst of your fighting career, man. I want to see him versus McGregor. We got to see that within the next year or maybe 2 years in order for it to even still be entertaining or worth watching. But what do you guys think about this? I think McGregor will probably fight Chandler, and then if McGregor can get a win, Nate Diaz wins against Jake Paul, or maybe he just waits until that happens. Dude, we could be getting that trilogy, and that's probably the thing I'll be most excited for. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section down below. Moving on to, before we get into the one championship cards, we're gonna talk about Shakur Stevenson. He's about boring as hell, guys. Fuck, man, he's really good defensively, and that shit is boring. He was talking about the other guy moving around to survive, but at the same time, all the great finishers in boxing, they hunt down their opponents. Was Frank Martin gonna survive against Gervonta Tank Davis, someone that Shakur Stevenson keeps calling out? Fuck no. Because Tank Davis was fucking hunting him. He was walking forward, willing to eat some shots in order to give harder ones, and that's what the great finishers do. So he's talking about he wants to finish fights, and oh, if this guy's just trying to survive, it's hard to finish fights. I can agree with that, but at the same time, when you're not putting yourself at risk to get hit, usually you're not going to land a fight-ending blow. And I think he knows that. He's trying to amp up the crowd a little bit, trying to get them to hate them and run along with the whole boring fighter skit, because he even had Shakur Twitterson on the back of his shorts. And if you don't know, a lot of people call him that because he tweets more than he has exciting fights, or his Twitter's a lot more exciting than his fights. And yeah, man, I don't think any of the top boxers are really gonna fight him. I don't think he's gonna get that Lomachenko fight, even though I would be interested in seeing the skill for skill matchup. I'm scared he would make that one boring. The fans in his own hometown crowd were leaving before his fight was even done. It was just a boring snooze fest compared to the undercard, which was actually better. I mean, we saw Abdullah Mason get a second round finish over a guy obviously who shouldn't have been in there with him, but it was a good fight. We saw Keyshawn Davis have a good performance against a tough fucking Hispanic dude who just wouldn't stop coming forward. So we saw some good fights on the boxing undercard. To be honest, it was one of the better boxing undercards that you would see in today's day and age. But Shakur Stevenson, man, he's not gonna get that Tank fight. I don't think he's gonna get that Loma fight. I think he's gonna keep fighting guys who don't really have a name, because who wants to take that risk at hitting someone who doesn't put themselves in danger? His defense is really good, but he's also fucking boring. Could barely sell out his hometown crowd. And you know, there's not much in it for the other person, man. It's like almost they're just giving him an opportunity to get something without them really getting anything out of it. So I can see why people are avoiding him or not fighting him. It doesn't really interest me either. But moving on, I don't know if you guys watch boxing or not. Who do y'all think Shakur Stevenson should fight? Any fights y'all want to see from him? Let me know in the comments down below. But again, moving on to the one championship cards. Now, don't leave the fucking video, man, because these were the best fights of the damn night. And yes, they occurred on the other side of the world, in Lumpini Stadium in Singapore. And Jesus Christ, amazing card. Always one championship at MMA promotion, probably the second best in my opinion in the world. They have Muay Thai, they have kickboxing. They even make special rules fights like boxing in 4-ounce gloves. And they also have MMA, where you can knee grounded opponents, kick people when they're on the ground. They also have submission grappling. They have all the martial arts. So if you're a martial arts fan, keep watching the video and watch one championship. Now I'm gonna run through this card. I'm gonna talk about all the fights that I thought were very exciting, starting off with Rug versus Ketchup. Now, Boucher Ketchup, he was 1-0 in amateur MMA and was claiming to be the best Senegalese fighter. He ran into Rug. They did a kickboxing match, and it didn't honestly seem like the dude knew how to fight at all. He had a wrestling style, but they did a kickboxing match. I didn't really understand it, but Rug just beat him up. Interesting matchup, I would say. I guess Rug is getting ready to fight Anatoly Malykhin, the first triple champ ever in MMA. So I guess this maybe was a warm-up or just something to keep him active. Who knows? But Rug ended up getting the job done by knockout in the first round, as expected. Another interesting fight was Hiroba Manawa versus Jeremy Miyato. That was a very close fight. Manawa ended up just taking him down, out wrestling him. We saw some good wrestling exchanges. Wish I saw some better grappling, but the wrestling exchanges were still nice. Went all the way to a split decision. Black Panther ended up knocking out Ali. Black Panther, that was a nasty knockout, man, because Saldoa really looked like he had some good boxing. He was a Russian guy. He looked like he had some good crisp combinations, but Black Panther just fucking head kicked him and put his lights out. It seemed like everything Black Panther touched him with really just had a much larger effect. So Black Panther got his first win in one championship, coming from the Friday Night Fights, which is like UFC Contender Series, if you're aware of that, but it's much harder also than the Contender Series, because usually you have to put together a couple of fights win streak to get into one championship. We also had Tatsumitsu Wada display textbook MMA pressure against Shea Wei, who is a kung fu specialist. A lot of like grapple boxing and interesting things there. Tatsumitsu Wada had a really good fight with Demetrius Johnson. Some of you may know him from there. But yeah, that was an interesting fight as well. And then we get into the real good fights. The Muay Thai fight between Luke Lisi and Bempara Koyate. This was Bempara Koyate's first fight with one championship. Or, no, actually, I think it was his second. His first fight, actually, he lost. His second fight, he was fighting Luke Lisi, who is pretty much the poster boy for American Muay Thai. And he is so smooth, so awesome to watch. In this fight, though, Luke started off very slow, and it seemed like he really couldn't get going early. He almost maybe took the guy a little lightly. The guy was just being more active. Yes, he was using more energy than Luke, but he was just touching him and standing on the outside and looking good while doing it, bloodying up Luke Lisi until the third round, man. And the third round came around. Luke needed a finish. He ends up putting it on. I mean, this was a fucking barn burner. He ended up dropping Koyate, and dude, you thought it was gonna be fucking comeback of the year from Luke Lisi until Koyate hits maybe the cleanest lead uppercut I've ever seen that had like a delayed reaction from Luke Lisi. You didn't even really see if it landed in real time. You had to go back and watch the replay because it was just so smooth the way he did it right after being dropped, right after being rocked. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure he was still rocked when he hit Luke Lisi with that. If you don't know, it is Muay Thai in 4-ounce gloves, so that's part of the reason why one championship has a 70% finish rate compared to the UFC's 40% finish rate. But like I said, it was devastating. He ended up finishing Luke Lisi with that punch. The ref called it off, in which I think Luke probably could have continued, but I also think it was a good stoppage. I like Luke Lisi. I want to see him fight more, and it's good that you're saving him from himself, because that was a fucking war. But yeah, that was an insane fight, and if you guys want to be a fan of Muay Thai, go watch that fight. Again, it's Koyate versus Lisi on One Championship Fight Night 23. Go check that out. But Koyate looked really good. I'm interested to see who he's gonna fight next. Let me know who you guys want to see him fight next, or if you've even heard of him before, because I hadn't before this fight, but now I do. Jesus Christ. Next up, we had Tai Ruotolo versus Joseph Chen. This is from my jiu-jitsu, guys. Tai Ruotolo is one of the best grapplers on the planet, and he's only fucking like 20 years old. Joseph Chen is also one of the best grapplers on the planet at 19 years old. Submission grappling is just getting younger and younger as a sport, and these guys are fucking good, man. They had a very close match. Some people call it robbery. Again, like I said, it's just a close match. Same thing with the Masvidal Diaz. It was a very close match, and I think that it did go to the right person in Tai Ruotolo. Tai Ruotolo hits him with a nice takedown. First off, beautiful hand fighting at the beginning. It was an absolute chess match until it got to the ground, or even while it was on the ground. But Tai Ruotolo ends up hitting him with a nice, good double leg in order to get him to the ground. And then he spends the rest of the time trying to pass Joseph Chen's elusive guard. I mean, beautiful guard retention. I don't know how many people we've seen retain their guard like that against a Ruotolo brother, who is really, they're known for their passing, they're known for their darces, and he just couldn't find any opportunities to really get past Joseph Chen's guard. Joseph Chen did a good job attacking off of his back, but couldn't lock in anything too serious. I think Ruotolo had a couple of near catches in there as well, but overall, very high level jiu-jitsu. I wouldn't be surprised if they run that back. Tai Ruotolo did win. He ended up retaining his championship in One Championship, and yeah, I want to see that one be run back again. Hopefully, or probably going to be after CJI, the Craig Jones Invitational, if you guys know what that is. However, next up on the card, after that fight, we saw Nico Carrillo. Yes, the Muay Thai phenom, the Muay Thai #1 contender in the bantamweight division, the one who should be fighting Jonathan Haggerty next, win against Semlepech Fairtex, longtime Muay Thai and kickboxing legend. Man, Nico Carrillo's coming off of that knockout win over Nongo. A lot of people thought he should have been fighting Jonathan Haggerty after that, but then has this amazing knockout win over Semlepech. I mean, God, from bell to bell, honestly, he dominated Semlepech. He was just walking Semlepech down, getting him into a corner, and every time he got caught in a corner, that's when he would unleash his barrage of punches, knees, and everything to really fucking hurt this man. And Nico Carrillo he's not only a big bantamweight, but he is a savage, dude. I mean, so powerful, power in both hands, great IQ for Muay Thai, and yeah, he's a finisher as well. He believes he's the best bantamweight on the planet. I think he should be fighting the winner of Superlek versus Jonathan Haggerty when they fight in Denver, Colorado. I believe September is when they fight. He should be secured as the #1 contender. He should be fighting them next, and I don't think there's any argument about that. Let me know what you guys think though in the comments down below, as usual, as we get into this last fight. Okrayun versus Alibek Razulov. Okrayun is a former champion in one championship. They were fighting for the interim lightweight belt because Christian Lee is inactive due to his sister passing away, and you know, it wasn't the most exciting fight. There was a lot of good inside fighting, similar to the Tatsumitsu Wada fight, but man, Razulov is just, he's gonna do what he does, which is wrestle. He was wrestling, he was laying on him, he never really got him to the ground, kind of just putting his weight on him, making him carry his weight against the ropes. Okrayun, I thought, to be honest, was doing a much better job fighting on the inside, and scored as a whole, I could have seen them giving it to Okrayun, but I guess just the constant forward pressure is what the judges saw. A lot of aspects of the fight were controlled by Razulov, and Razulov also did give him a cut in the middle of his forehead. But if we're talking about like strikes landed, damaging strikes landed on the inside, I thought Okrayun actually put up a good fight and maybe could have won that fight. But hey, who am I, right? Let me know who you thought won that fight. Again, wasn't the most exciting fight. I thought Nico Carrillo over Semlepech probably could have been the main event on that one. But hey, overall, great night of fights. Better than any of those boxing cards, to be honest. And if you're a one championship fan, you were satisfied. So guys, thank you for stopping by my video today. Make sure you leave your thoughts and comments down below in the comment section, and also let me know what videos you would like to see next, what you would want to hear my opinions on, or any technique videos that you would want me to drop, or breakdowns and that of the sort. However, with that being said, thank you for supporting the content, giving me the thumbs up and subscribing. This was your MMA weekend recap. And last but definitely not least, don't forget to check out this week's episode of the Will vs. the Way MMA podcast, uncensored MMA podcast, where we have Terrence T-Rex McKinney joining us on the podcast. Where, man, it was a great conversation. We got to delve into his mindset as a UFC fighter, and just where he's from, his upbringing, tragedies that happen in his life, and messages he has for people coming up in the fight game. And man, it was a very interesting conversation that me and T Will had with him. That is on the Will vs. the Way podcast, so go over to that channel and subscribe if you haven't already, because that one should be dropping later this week. But guys, stay safe, stay blessed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.